Eerily haunting true stories about remote abandoned locations rich in history. Come with us in our travels from state to state, if you dare.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna fucking kill.
Hello? Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Gina.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
It's been a mighty long week.
It's
been good, though. It's been okay.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, it's been good.
Okay, we'll say that.
It's been good. Considering all the things I can't say.
I was going to say, I'm like, I know what's been happening in Gina's life, and I'm going to say, okay, we're going to go with that. Just going to lock that up and put that key away.
Can't.
So,
How's your week been?
You know what? It's been actually okay. Just a little busy. Covered a couple shifts at Starbucks. Everybody, there's a buy one, get one on all your fall drinks at Starbucks on Thursdays. Thank you to everybody who showed up on Thursday with only 4 of us there. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God.
It was a madhouse.
Oh, wow.
And actually, we did have more than 4 people there. I do have to say, my boss did cover us pretty good for the first.
What was it?
Buy one, get one on all the fall drinks. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so on to
with today's story.
More serious subject.
Before we start, I want to say that today's story that we're doing is on a girl named Sherri Papini. It's a pretty popular story.
Yeah.
But
it's been in the news.
Shannon has referred to her multiple times as Sherri Papino. So at any given time during this recording, if you
Papino? Did I say Papino?
So
yeah.
if
it was Sherri Papino.
At any time you hear her say either one of those, apologies in advance. She's trying to say Sherri Papini.
I was trying, but I think I have it now. I was practicing.
Yeah.
So I was listening to
but
YouTube videos on how to say the name.
It's funny how when you're talking, I've said this so many times, but you're so confident about the things that you say and how you say them. Yeah. It just rolls off your tongue so quickly and easily. Like, oh, okay, we're going to do Sherri Papino today. Yeah.
People don't question me.
And when you say, huh? Yeah. Like you look confused at me. Like, why don't I know what you're talking about? Like, I should just know at all times what you mean.
And that's how I win arguments with my husband.
Yeah, I understand it now.
It's funny, too, because today I was talking about my son and daughter-in-law, Riley and Leah, and I finally got her name right. But Gina doesn't know her name as Leah. She knows it as Leia. So she was
because that's what
confused.
She has always called her. So I'm like,
Leia.
Who
like
is
Princess
Leah?
Leia.
I'm like, who's Leah? Yeah. I had no idea.
I know. She was shocked.
And she's just talking, like telling me this whole conversation, like I should know who Leah is. And I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about.
I know, but it was because I had her name wrong all this time.
And let's just get this straight. This is her son's wife. I'll just leave that there. So Sherri Papini, it's a crazy story. It's something that I don't understand. Obviously, there's a lot of mental health issues, but I don't understand how people do these things and think that they're going to pull them off and not get caught. I don't understand. It's really...
Well, I guess we'll get into it. Just in case some people need a little bit of a refresher of who Sherri Papini is. Sherri is born Sherri Louise Graff. She was born on June 11th, 1982 to Richard and Loretta and has one sister, Sheila. She was raised in Shasta County in California. Over the years, there have been some calls made to law enforcement by Sherri's family. In 2000, her father, Richard, alleged that his daughter burglarized his residence. Also in 2000, her sister, Sheila, alleged that her back door had been kicked in and she believed Sherri was the suspect. In 2003, Sherri's father alleged that she stole from his bank account. In 2003, Sherri's mother alleged to authorities that Sherri had been harming herself and blaming the injuries on her. The police report is only 2 sentences long. Shasta County Sheriff was asked what happened, and he said that a deputy spoke with Sherri's mother and gave her advice. The police reports provide no details about any arrest. She has a rap sheet already.
Yep.
By this time.
And
this is
it's like
when she's 21 years old.
And that's just with her family.
And 20, yeah. I mean, yeah, just and who knows what else with other people and boyfriends, exes.
But it doesn't sound like much was done either.
Yeah.
Like
she didn't get much
they
help.
gave her advice. That's it. Like
There was also an essay posted on a website that no longer exists that was signed by a Sherri Gruff, which is her maiden name. The writer said that growing up in Shasta County, she got into 2 fights with Latinos who targeted her because she was drug-free, white, and proud of her blood and heritage. It's not clear if Papini wrote the post, and her family and friends claim it was written by someone else. Sherri also had a Pinterest account that contained a section marked Cultural Differences and featured memes expressing concerns about illegal immigrants and Muslims. This has since been taken down. Sherri had a previous husband before she met Keith Papini, but it was a marriage formed for all the wrong reasons. Sherri married Platoon Sergeant David Dreyfus in 2006 and used his military status to obtain health insurance. Dreyfus told investigators that Papini made regular egg donations, which caused health problems, and they managed to marry before he was deployed overseas. Although Papini's mother claimed the couple traveled the world together, Dreyfus said they only met once in Japan and never lived together. While still married to Dreyfus, Sherri reconnected with middle school crush Keith, who she had shared her first kiss with. In a 2009 wedding blog post, Sherri wrote, "I never imagined my middle school first kiss would turn out to be my husband." Sherri describes living with Keith in her townhouse in 2006 in order to assess their compatibility before marriage. When he returned from his deployment, Sherri informed Dreyfus that she had met someone else and they divorced in 2008. She had once told Dreyfus that she was abused by her family growing up, but after their separation, Dreyfus learned from mutual friends that Sherri had built up a reputation as a liar. In October 2009, Keith and Sherri were married. They have a son, Tyler, who was born in 2013, and a daughter, Violet, who was born in 2015. Sherri was known as being a super mom, super wife, who loved being a stay-at-home mom. They lived in a small town outside of Redding, California, in the family home that Keith grew up in. Redding, California is beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
Lots of trees, Northern California. It's so pretty up there.
Yeah, she was kind of just known as like a really good person. Like people had like a lot of good things to say about her, and
so it sounds like she kind of turned her reputation around.
Yeah, and if you look
married.
at pictures of the two of them, they're almost like, and not even just their wedding photos, but just any pictures that they would take, like just random candid shots that they would take on vacation or just at a ball game or whatever. They just like, she's very beautiful, and
yeah, she is really pretty.
They just have this like, they just look so happy. Like they truly look happy together.
Well, I always say that people always post the best parts of their relationship on social media. Like you never see the in-betweens. You always see just, the happy, the good stuff, So that's why it's so depressing for some kids. I think it's bad for kids to see that because they think like, oh,
that's how it should always be.
Yeah, I'm living this, whatever they're going through or trauma. And then they're looking on social media. It looks like everybody's having a great old time and partying. But I just post when I want to make people jealous, and that's, and that's just how it is. And so I'm only going to post the good pics.
Yeah, that's it.
Why am I going to post
and I don't
sitting
know
in front of my McDonald's and my bank account and $2 in it? I'm not going to do that.
Trying to pick 2 items off the dollar menu.
Thank you.
Which I don't even know. Do they still have a dollar menu?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
It's probably like a $20 menu now for
probably
with inflation. But
I don't know. But anyway, there's not an exact age known on their kids.
Oh, okay.
They got these years that they were born in by just doing the math. By how old the kids were when this incident took place.
They don't have birth certificates or anything of public record?
I don't think anybody has even published anything.
Well, the kids deserve their privacy, I guess.
Yeah, so the exact ages on the kids I don't think are exactly known, but this is like a pretty close ballpark,
Okay.
you know, of how old the kids were. So on the morning of November 2nd, 2016, around 6:50 a.m., Keith Papini, on his way out the door to work, sees his wife getting their daughter Violet up and ready for the day. He leaves to go to work at Best Buy. He's like, what do they call those people at Best Buy that do the computer, like
tech?
Oh God, yeah, like they go to people's houses. The Geek Squad.
The Geek Squad, yeah.
I think he worked for that. Like he did that kind of work. So he returns that evening, expecting his wife and 2 young children to greet him like they did every night. When he walked in the house, it was empty. He was confused because Sherri's car was in the driveway. He checked all the rooms in the house and confirmed that it was empty. He then checked outside and again found nobody. At this point, he wasn't scared or panicking, figuring that they were all together. He decides to check the Find My iPhone app to see where Sherri was. Her phone pinged about a mile away near the area where their mailboxes were located. So their mailboxes, they had this huge driveway and they were all kind of down at the end.
Yeah, Redding can be rural.
Yeah, so they were like a mile away from their home. So he drove down to the mailbox and nobody was there. He went back home and called his mom and asked if she had heard from Sherri, and his mom said no. Keith then called the daycare where his 2 children went. It was long past the time that Sherri usually picked them up, and she was always on time. When he spoke to the woman at the daycare, she informed Keith that his children were still there and Sherri hadn't picked them up yet. And it sounds like they were on a pretty tight schedule as far as like picking the kids up. She always went like within this 15 to 30 minute window every single day. She was pretty consistent with her time. And so he, I think, knew at that point.
And the daycare was still open.
And the daycare was still open, but the kids were still there. So he drove back to the mailbox where her phone had pinged, and he started to look around because he said at that point, when I first went there, he said, I was looking for her or for the kids. Yeah. He said, and then after he found out, went back home and called his mom and called the daycare and found out that his kids were not there. He said
his kids were still there.
Right. Sorry. Yes. That his kids were still there. When he went back to the mailbox, he was then looking for her phone and not a person. So then he drives back and he finds her phone very close to the side of the road, and he finds it fairly quickly. It's in a very obvious place. It's not like somebody has chucked it into the woods or whatever. It's kind of right on the side of the road. And on top of the phone were her headphones and a chunk of her hair that was tangled inside of her headphones. Like a good chunk of her. She's got bleach blonde hair. So her phone is sitting here on the side of the road. Her headphones are entwined with some of her hair, and they're placed right on top of her phone, and it's right on the side of the road, and that's how he finds it. So he takes a picture of the phone before he picks it up, takes a picture, and then he calls 911. So Keith was convinced that Sherri had left to go out for a jog because she was training for a Thanksgiving Day marathon. Now, mind you, this was like 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. So he's convinced that she went out for a jog and that something happened to her, because clearly he knows at this point the kids are not with her.
Yeah.
She's by herself. So within hours of his 911 call, the authorities, friends, and neighbors were all out searching for them. And I think there were quite a few hundred people that they had gathered up to search for her, search
That's
the
a
area.
Sweet life, though. I mean, she has the kids in daycare, and she's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah,
she's just a stay-at-home wife. Because
yeah.
at that point, your kids
and her kids
are in daycare.
young. Yeah. Like her kids are,
No, I don't know. When
3 and they're young.
Yeah,
her kids are 3. So
when I stayed home with the kids, I had to have the kids with me when I was a stay-at-home mom.
I mean, isn't that stay-at-home mom?
But
especially when they're not like technically school age, you know?
I was like, the kids were always with me. Man, how did I?
Yeah,
I got the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
No,
I'm telling you,
children.
like it just, I mean, I do too, but if I'm gonna be a stay-at-home mom, I don't want it to be with my kids home. I can say that now because my kids are old and grown, but
I know. I'm like, how did she?
How'd she swing that?
No, thank you.
How'd she swing
how do you
that?
talk somebody into that? Like, I don't even know how I can talk.
I want to
my
be a
husband
stay-at-home mom, but I want to put my kids in preschool.
Yeah, but I need the money for the daycare. please, so I can go train for a marathon,
right?
And get my nails done and do my thing.
Yeah, shop at Target all day. Sherri was found on the side of a highway 150 miles from her home with a bag over her head and chains tied around her wrist and her waist. Sherri's miraculous return made national headlines, and her story soon captured attention around the globe. Because at this point, this lady that sees her on the side of the road that calls for help, the condition that she was in was horrendous.
Pretty gruesome.
She was very, very, very beat up. And if you see a woman, I mean, I don't know, nowadays this wasn't long ago, but unfortunately, like, these days you don't know what to do. We've talked about this before. I would stop. You probably wouldn't.
I'd be too scared.
Because when we saw that accident on the freeway, I wanted to stop.
But only because she's stopping in the middle of the freeway with cars zooming by us going 60 miles per hour.
And I'm trying to jump out the window.
I know.
Or out the door.
I'm trying to keep her in the car and keep her safe. But no, I think I probably would have pulled up forward, maybe not approach her immediately, but I probably would call 911.
Yeah, it's hard.
But nobody saw how she got there. I
No.
mean, it wasn't a busy road.
No, she was just found by this lady walking down the street with a chain around her waist, bag over her head, and just beat to a bloody pulp, head to toe.
Wow.
So people were very intrigued by her story because of her safe return, which is rare in abduction cases, especially 22 days later, 3 weeks later, you know. There were also inconsistencies in Sherri's recollection, causing there to be conspiracies and hoax rumors, which nowadays I feel like there's a conspiracy about everything. Yeah. Everything, there's like a conspiracy theory. Which I'm not anti-conspiracy because I love to read them.
But it's problematic for women who actually go legit missing or legit and the response might not be as quick just because maybe there's something that looks suspicious or maybe so.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know. And it does. It's really sad for the ones that are truly out there that things happen to. And then you have this kind of stuff happen.
Well, I mean, I just want to mention the one, what was it in Huntington Beach? I don't even remember exactly where, but where they were actually kidnapped, the husband and the wife, and nobody believed them. And they were actually charged. And then come to find out, it actually happened to them.
Yeah.
So it's just very.
I mean, things happen.
Discouraging. Yeah.
It's a crazy world. It really, really is. So on one occasion, she said she fought against one of her abductors, resulting in a cut on her foot, but her hospital photos showed no evidence of that injury. Adding to the confusion was the slow progress of both the investigation and the release of new information. So there was 2 sketches of the 2 alleged abductors, and they were released nearly a year after the incident. So she returned home with a detailed, harrowing account of her kidnapping. She said her abductors were 2 Hispanic women who spoke mostly Spanish and forced her into their vehicle at gunpoint.
It makes you kind of wonder when we go back to the story about how the story that was written about the 2 Latinos in Shasta County and how they're saying that wasn't written by her, but look at the similarities.
Well, and that's her maiden name nor her married name, but it was written in someone with her married name. I'm sorry, it was written in somebody with her maiden name, but that's not a very common name.
No, it's not. We actually had to look up how to say it. Because we both work in a school district where we've come across names. A lot of names.
I've never heard that.
Never heard, never seen it spelled, nothing.
So, I don't know. I don't believe in a coincidence, but if that's a coincidence, it's a very odd one. So, so she was saying that these women forced her into the vehicle at gunpoint. She was then kept hostage in a closet where she was chained to a pole. The windows were boarded up and her environment was very cold. According to her interview with investigators, her captors listened to really annoying Mexican music and spent time watching TV. She was fed only once a day, and her meals consisted of rice, tortillas, and apples. Right? Just gets better. She managed to fight back at one point when she was allowed to leave her closet to take a shower, slamming the head of one of her captors into the toilet. Her captivity soon ended after Sherri heard her captors arguing, followed by a gunshot. The younger captor took her and dropped her off on the highway. Sherri came back home with a swollen nose and bruises, rashes, and ligature marks all over her body. She was also branded on her right shoulder with unintelligible markings, which detectives struggled to decipher. This brand that she was branded in her shoulder, it was like a scripture of some sort. Like just the verse. Not the verse, just the, what do you call it?
Oh, the Bible.
It said like Exodus something.
The Bible
like,
verse. Yeah.
Whatever you call it. Yeah. So she also was 13 pounds lighter, and her long hair had been chopped off. She had, like I said, her hair, we'll obviously put pictures up, but she has this long, beautiful blonde hair. And so her hair was chopped off. It was only a matter of time that Sherri's deception had started to unravel. In the spring of 2017, investigators found male DNA on the clothing and underwear she wore when she was discovered, but it wasn't until 2019 that the DNA was decoded. The following year, the DNA led them to Sherri's ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, who dated Sherri back in 2006 and was living in an apartment in Costa Mesa, California. Reyes told investigators that Sherri's story had been a lie and that he helped her leave her home and drove her back to his apartment. She told him that her husband, Keith, was abusive and that she needed to escape. The entire abduction was deliberately plotted, and she and Reyes contacted each other over prepaid phones to solidify their plans ahead of time. According to the criminal complaint filed against Sherri, she and Reyes started talking as early as December 2015. Once she arrived at his home, she lived a comfortable life and never left the apartment. Reyes bought her clothes at TJ Maxx, Target, and Ross, and she slept in a bedroom while he slept on the couch. As Thanksgiving neared, Sherri said that she missed her children and requested to be returned home, even though Reyes assumed she would stay longer. He told police that Sherri caused self-inflicted injuries while she stayed with him, including hitting herself to create bruises and burning herself on her arms. So he's the one that branded her on her request. She asked for him to brand her. And then she punched herself and did all these things to create all this, trauma. He rented a car to go pick her up. And when he picks her up from the side of the road, she gets in the back seat and she lays down. So she's not even
maybe I can understand the abuse part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in his mind at that point, he's like, okay, she's trying to hide from this guy, doesn't want him to know the vehicle, whatever. So her fake abduction claims cost the public more than $230,000 and police time that could have been employing police to solve actual crimes. Shasta County sheriffs estimate that Sherri cost public safety in excess of $150,000 in resources to investigate her knowingly false claims and stage abduction. Federal prosecutors in a 55-page criminal complaint against Sherri also detailed how she and her husband spent $11,000 of the $49,000 raised to bring her home. They started this Bring Her Home GoFundMe. They raised $49,000. $11,000 of it was used to pay off their bills, to pay off like credit card bills. The husband had no involvement whatsoever. He had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea whatsoever. So Sherri, she was charged with making false statements to a law enforcement officer, mail fraud, and fraudulently claiming more than $30,000 from California's victim compensation between 2017 and 2021. So on top of all that, she's collecting money from this California victims compensation, over $30,000 that she's receiving. In September 2022, Sherri pled guilty to orchestrating an elaborate hoax about being kidnapped and even seared with a branding iron by her abductors was ordered to serve 18 months in a minimum security camp in Victorville, California, more than double the amount of time federal prosecutors recommended. Sherri Papini, 40 years old, was sentenced in the U.S. District Court in Sacramento. After learning her fate, she emerged from the courtroom in tears and was embraced by friends, family, and her mother, who were also crying. U.S. District Court Judge William Shub ordered Sherri to turn herself in to begin her prison sentence by 2 p.m. on November 8th, 2022. Federal prosecutors had requested Shub to order Sherri, a mother of two, to serve her sentence in prison, but asked for only 8 months. Prosecutors noted in court documents that Sherri continued her fake abduction scheme long after she resurfaced in her hometown of Redding, California in 2016. So she came home.
Mm-hmm.
She had this whole, I don't know how you keep this up. This whole act that she's putting on.
Well, I think I always say it's harder to lie than tell the truth. So I can see why your story kept changing, because it's so hard to keep track of what you told people.
Well,
but how did it not unravel faster?
She used the excuse that, I have all this trauma and I'm trying to put it out of my head. I'm trying not to remember these things. So I'm putting it out of my head because I don't want this to affect my life with my kids and my husband. I really think in her heart of hearts, she thought, I got away with this. And I just don't know what the purpose was of it. I
always thought,
do you need that much attention?
When I heard the story, I thought it was because she was reconnecting with this ex-boyfriend and that they were doing the nasty. But you said that no, they weren't doing anything. He was just a really nice guy saving her from this abusive relationship. So what were her plans? She had this good life, a stay-at-home mom. Her kids are in daycare. I don't know behind the scenes, because people can be different behind the scenes, but nothing has come out about her husband since then. You would think that maybe other things came out, yes, he was abusive, yes, this, but he, all around nice guy.
And if that's the case, then just leave.
Yeah. And he was being very supportive in the beginning when she first came back.
But she had obviously been plotting this for a while.
And why, though?
Yeah, she had been plotting this for a while.
I wonder if she thought maybe she was going to get more from this ex-boyfriend, and when it turned out that she didn't and it wasn't going the way she thought it was, maybe she was like, okay, I'm going to go back home to my kids and husband.
Yeah, she missed her kids. You're not with them. Why wouldn't you miss your kids? So she comes home. And immediately she has, all these people, the authorities, everybody's wanting to interview her. There's videos, and I'll put as many as I can in here, but there's videos of her being questioned by the police and, news and media outlets. She's allowing them in her home to question her. And she has, her nose is just mangled, and she's got this thing on her face, and she's got all these bandages, and she's putting on the whole show about, what they did to her, these women, and they chained her to the pole and blah blah blah, all this stuff, and they beat her up and the whole 9 yards. She's on this story, she's telling everybody her story, and she continues to do this until they actually find DNA. So they find the DNA on her clothes. So they take the DNA and they run it through, and it comes up with not James Reyes, but it comes up to somebody in his immediate family, because they ran it through the criminal system or whatever. Yeah. They didn't get any hits. So they ran it through people who have done the 23andMe, the Ancestry.com, and it came up that it was an immediate relative of his. So they go to Facebook, they start searching Facebook, and they end up coming up with him. They find him. They bring her in with her husband. This is in 2019. They bring them into the police station because they're telling her and her husband that they have, we have new information. We might have found the people. We might have found the house that you were held captive at. They bring her in, and I can't put it up because it's a 3 hour. Is it a 3? I think it's a 3 hour long video. It's over. Yeah, it's a few hours, but it's very interesting. So she's in there with her husband, and there's 2 detectives that are talking to them, and they're telling her, we're going to show you some pictures, and we want you to confirm your story. We want you to,
At this point, do they think her story's shady, or do they think they actually got the people who kidnapped her?
They know her whole story completely is bullshit.
They've already talked to the people. Okay.
They're just playing the game.
Okay.
So they show her this piece of paper, and it has, I believe, either 6 or 8 pictures on it. And it's on one sheet of paper. And so they pull the paper out, and they're like, do any of these women look familiar to you? And she's looking, and she's really, like, this one kind of looks familiar. And then she takes a piece of paper, and she's like, I have to look at them individually. So she's looking at each picture, and she's like really playing into this. Like, so then they take it back, and the guy's like, okay. So he's asking her these questions like, okay, you said there was like a pole in the closet. So they show her a picture of James Reyes's house, and he's like, there's a lot of truth to your story. She actually described his apartment to a T. So they have pictures of his apartment, and they're showing her these pictures. And I think now she's starting to get a little nervous. Like, So she's like, well, it's a little familiar, but that thing right there on the wall, that wasn't there. So I don't think that's it. So then they show her another picture of the closet. They show her the window. They show her this. Then they pull up this Facebook profile, and they're like, these are the same homes. And the detective tells her, we found the house that you were kept in. Her husband cannot fucking sit still.
He's ecstatic.
He is so happy. He's ready to jump out of his fucking pants. Like, he's just like, he's twitching, and he can't sit still. And he's like standing up and sitting down and standing up and sitting down. Like, he wants to jump off the rooftop.
Like, why are you not getting these people? Like,
and she keeps saying like, well, yeah, but like that thing right there, I don't remember that right there. But so it's probably not that. Like, she's now trying to backtrack. She's backpedaling.
Yeah, well, she doesn't want to throw Reyes under the bus.
Yes. Well, she doesn't want to get caught because, So as time goes on.
Well, I think she's probably thinking like, oh shit, if they think through DNA, if they think that I was kept at this house, they might arrest him when,
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He did what I asked him to do. So,
and then when they talk to him, because she doesn't know they already talked to him, when they talk to him, they're going to find out the true story.
Well, and then they tell her,
don't talk to him.
We know, well, they actually tell her, we know who this is. We just need to confirm a couple things with you. Do you want your husband in the room, or do you want him to leave the room? So now the husband's like, why would you be asking me to leave? This is my wife.
Yeah.
She's not speaking. She's got her head in her hands now. She's starting to cry. So finally, they keep asking her. She's not answering. The 2 detectives say, you know what? We're going to step out. We're going to go outside. We're going to let you guys talk. We'll come back in like 5-10 minutes. They leave the room. She starts talking to the husband, and she's crying and crying. And he's like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? They got these women that you say held you captive, that did all of this to you. What's happening? So she starts crying, and she said, I don't want them to arrest her. And he's like, who? She says, the woman that saved me. She saved my life, and she's the one that allowed me to be here today to be with my children. So she's saying she doesn't want these women to get in trouble, because the one that actually was the reason. So she doesn't want her to get in trouble, because she's the reason that she's able to be here today, still living. And so her husband's just baffled. Like, you could see like his face. He's just like, what's happening? So the detectives come back in, and the husband's like, okay, like, tell the detectives, tell them why you don't want these women arrested. And she said, I don't want her to get in trouble. And the detective says, she's not going to get in trouble. Like, in other words, there is no she.
Yeah.
Like, she's not going to get in trouble. So finally, after them going back and forth for like over 30 minutes, she's not giving him an answer. Like, do you want your husband here? And he finally says, I'm just going to start talking. If you want him to leave, you need to speak up now or just stay quiet, because I'm going to just start talking.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
So the husband's like, just start talking. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm going to be here. So the detective says, we found the house. This is the house. The pictures that we've showed you, we're 100% sure that this is the house that you were taken to. The DNA that we found was from James Reyes, your ex-boyfriend. And as soon as they say that, the husband picks up his chair and he scoots over, like, away from her. Like, I don't even want to sit by this bitch. So he scoots over and they just lay it all out to her. And all she keeps saying, I can't believe it was James. I can't believe James did this to me. Yeah, that's what she's saying. What so the detective, so the detectives are like, James took a polygraph test and passed, and he has been 100% truthful and honest with us. He told us that you asked him to brand you, and he showed us the receipts where he went to buy everything, and he told us everything that you've done to yourself and everything that he did to you. He's been 100% truthful. We asked him to come in and take a polygraph test. He said absolutely, and he came in and he passed. They polygraph tested her husband. He didn't fail, but it was inconclusive. So, not that he's guilty. I think it was probably just because he was so stressed out. But
in denial.
But this guy,
disbelief.
And I mean, none of it's admissible in court, so it doesn't matter, neither here nor there. But still, this guy has been 100% honest and has passed a polygraph test. And she still is just like, I can't believe James would do this to me. Yeah. So, it's a really interesting video, and I'll put like a couple clips in here and there, whatever I can get away with putting in. But if you have some time on your hands and you just want to sit there for like an hour or so and watch something, it's very interesting to watch this whole thing play out. How all of this ends.
This is the last time if you want to do this alone or with Keith. Keith's been through this also on a different level. So I'm ready I'm ready to move on and throw the dart and throw the rock and see what happens to the water. But Sherri, look at me. What do you want?
I don't want her to get in trouble.
She's not going to get in trouble. So the DNA came back to James Reyes.
The DNA that was on you belongs to James Reyes.
The picture, and can I get the picture? The picture of the table is James Reyes' little brother who died recently. We talked to him. He's been on a polygraph. We talked to everybody around him. We have the rental agreements, phone rental, the car rental agreements. We have everything that says that he said he told Howard for days on end. The reason why you lost so much weight is because you stopped eating. The reason why you got a rash on your arm was because you cleaned his house. The reason why the brand is because he went to the store, bought the branding tools, and branded you. The reason why your nose was broke is because of a hockey stick. I know all of those things, and I know there was no sex. I know all of that because he passed a polygraph test that said it's not an abduction. She asked me to come and get her.
No.
I rented a car.
No.
I drove up and picked her up. He passed the polygraph test, Sherri.
If that's not what happened, what did happen, Sherri?
I don't know. No, there's no way it's James. There's no way. There's no way.
The DNA doesn't lie.
His DNA
was on you.
There's no way.
Robert saw you.
So defense attorneys had asked the judge for mercy, requesting that Sherri be allowed to do most of her time under house arrest. He concluded that the sentencing recommendations from the prosecution and any defense were both insufficient, and said that Sherri will likely be perpetuating the hoax had she not been caught up in a web of lies. So he didn't feel that she would have stopped this. Like, she was going to keep playing her game.
Taking it to her grave.
And nothing was going to come of this. The only reason that she's doing this is because the DNA.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she'd have played this out till the end.
Shoot, even with the DNA, she was throwing poor Reyes under the bus.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh, yeah. So in addition to prison time, he ordered her to serve 3 years of supervised probation when she gets out and pay $309,000 in restitution, which the judge said will never likely be paid, which obviously, he said, I would ask rhetorically who is going to employ her in the future. Nobody.
No.
Absolutely nobody. Prior to learning her fate, Sherri publicly apologized in court, saying, I am choosing to humbly accept responsibility. Okay, well, that's not saying much, but whatever.
I mean, all the cards are laid out on the table.
Of course, what can you say at this point?
All of it. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? Now I'll admit it. Okay. Yeah, I did make it up. Like, okay, yeah, we already knew that. Like, bitch, we already knew. Mm-hmm. Like, tell us something new.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to see. I'm actually really curious when she gets out of prison. I like to see, like you said, what she's going to do.
Well, she's out. So
is she out?
That's one of the that's one of the reasons why I chose this story, is because it's back in the headline. It's back in the news again.
When did she get out?
Just recently.
My goodness. So she didn't even serve her whole time.
No.
Which most of the time they don't.
They don't. No.
So now I'm really curious just to what she's going to do. Is she going to become self-employed, make things, sell it on Etsy? Who knows? But like, where's she going to take this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
So she was transferred from the satellite camp adjacent to Federal Correctional Institution, Victorville, to community confinement on August 16th, which is like a halfway house.
Oh.
So on August 16th, 2023, the Federal Bureau of Prisons Sacramento Residential Reentry Management Office oversees this program, but they could not confirm where where Sherri would be living or the conditions of her confinement, citing privacy. So community confinement means Sherri is either in a home of confinement or she's in a halfway house. So she's probably has an ankle monitor. And, she has a projected release date of October 29th, 2023. And after this date, she will no longer be in the reentry program or under community confinement, which means
so she's kind of
she's
like
out.
She's kind of,
so
she's
from
kind of
now,
like halfway.
from August 16th until October 29th, which is a very short period of time.
Yeah.
She's going to be on house arrest.
How's that even like
in a halfway house?
How's that even like a reentry program when it's only 2 months?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they need more therapy. She needs therapy.
Yeah. I believe this depends on the crime. This lady needs some help.
Yeah, no, definitely.
2 months is not good. And she didn't serve much jail time.
No, not at all.
So
she probably feels like she got away with shit. Like that kind of mind right there. Like she's probably thinking like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah. So it's I'll be very curious. Yeah, when I saw that that she had been moved to a halfway house, I was like, wow.
I mean, what was the point of the judge sentencing her double of what they were recommending?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if they would have sentenced her the original one, she probably would already be free, a few months later anyway. So I guess it's probably better that way. But
yeah. So James Reyes, because I was curious to know like where is he at?
Yeah.
And it says that he's currently living in Arizona with his grandfather and his pet dog.
The guy was in Costa Mesa living a good old life until now. I mean, she not only ruined her own life, she probably ruined his a little bit too. Like, or I derailed it. Of course.
I mean, it was
selfish.
It was ultimately his thing, his confession that led to all of this. And I'm sure he probably didn't know if he was going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's sad. Again, mental illness, but I just I don't understand.
It seems to be a running theme, you know, the mental health issue.
Yeah.
So,
if you have any, you know, any comments or anything that you'd like to add, then we would love to hear them. If you have any, if you have a different way of looking at this, you know,
I'm just surprised at how many people do this. I really am. I mean, we just had one recently in the news where a lady did that as well, Georgia or something like that. A baby on the side of the road, help, help. And then she disappears and she's gone for a few days and has a boyfriend too, who's all concerned. And now, you know,
and everybody's like, oh my God, this is sex trafficking. This is like all these theories just start to, you know,
until people start watching the video, and then you got all the people on the other end going, "Whoa,
hold on a second,
there's no
kid.
What car is she backing up to?"
Yeah.
So it's just funny though that this isn't the first. It's not going to be the last. But it's funny how many women, where is their mind when they think that
how much attention do you need?
A kidnapping, and are you do you think you're in trouble with your boy? Like, what would make you say that you got kidnapped?
Well, when
you really didn't.
The thing that really gets me is like, yeah, you have a husband. He's a grown man. Okay, whatever. I'm sure it's going to wreck his world. He'll get through this. But you have two young kids. Which obviously, you know, the dad or the husband is raising and whatever the case may be. And he filed for divorce the day that she was, you know, charged. So,
yeah.
But I don't understand. Like, are you obviously, again, mental illness. You're not thinking of none of that's going through your head at the time. But man, these poor kids, like, I mean, thank God the husband is a good man, and what if he just went off the deep end? What would happen?
Who knows, right?
What if he were to just fly off the deep end in like this state of depression, and what if he goes all wonky like her?
Yeah.
Then what? Then these kids are screwed in and out in the foster system.
It's just sad.
So,
well, thank God it worked out for them.
Yeah.
But
so
thank you so much for joining us this week, Bill.
Thank you very much.
For another story.
Yeah, for another.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I say story like for another episode.
Another
of
episode.
50 States of Madness.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So if you'd like to follow us, we're on TikTok and Instagram, all at 50 States of Madness. Our merch is we have tank tops now. We have mugs, sweatshirts,
Please
t-shirts.
check it out.
We got a bunch of stuff. Hopefully some more stuff to come. And yeah, that's all I got.
Be safe and join us next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.